Hello, Player One. Welcome to the Gaming History Club. My name is Gabby.
Hello, and I'm JP. It's December, Player One. Year on year, it is that famous time to demand to have the most iconic gaming drops of the year as a Christmas present. And today, we're traveling to the past to revisit some of the most iconic drops in the history of video games.
So, JP, what's the Christmas present that you remember you've begged for the most?
I actually don't remember. I was quite a silly, stupid little kid because I didn't even know what games I wanted. So when people ask me like, "What do you want for Christmas?" I said, "Games, please."
Like any games,
Yeah, just can I
please?
have some video games. Like
Okay.
I wasn't like literate. I wasn't reading the gaming magazines. You know it.
Yeah, but you started probably even before you could read somehow, I feel like.
Well,
But
yeah,
yeah.
this is true. This is true. Yeah. But no, I have no idea, to be honest. Like I do remember like my most memorable things that I've gotten was probably my Nintendo 64. But I don't remember if that was for Christmas or not because I lived in Spain at the time, so there
Okay.
was not going to be any snow anyway.
So you wouldn't remember?
No.
Like, you don't relate that to any season,
No.
basically.
But it could have been for Christmas.
It could have been.
Yeah.
So did you get that without asking though?
Yes, I did, yeah.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
okay, lucky you, definitely.
Hmm.
But yeah. Anyway, Christmas seems like that popular time for video games related stuff to be released and for, every kids and adults in this world who like video games obviously to beg to get the newest release of that year.
Yeah, I feel like Christmas is definitely the perfect time to gift someone video game consoles.
Or video games related stuff, right?
Like,
Yeah.
if you're not gonna get it for Christmas, then well, you better hope birthday because, like, well, you're not getting a console for Easter, are you? Basically.
Do you even give Easter presents? I don't know. I've never got any Easter present in my life.
So I used to be told that you get a big present for Christmas and a small one for Easter. But then my logic used to be like, yeah, but a Game Boy cartridge is very small. If you think about it, it's like tiny, fits in your hand.
Oh my god.
I guess I was actually a pretty clever kid in some ways.
What's the benchmark here, right? Honestly,
Yeah,
that's very vague.
I didn't make the rules.
I know, yeah. So, we're going to talk about iconic holiday drops in this episode. Basically, it's either console or games that were released near to the holiday period that it just became a big talking piece or a must have thing before the year ends. Or it might have also been the reason you're crying on a Christmas Eve because your parents decide to give the brand new stuff for your sibling and you'll just get their greasy old console. Possible,
Terrible parents, but possible, yes.
but possible,
Mm.
right? Yeah. Either way, the list today is in no logical order whatsoever. We just want to talk about a few that we thought was worth mentioning.
Well, Gabby, one that is definitely worth mentioning is the PlayStation 2.
Yeah, love that console.
Yeah, so while the PlayStation 2 wasn't first released during the holiday season, because they first launched in Japan in the beginning of March 2000, but they didn't get shipped to North America, Australia, and Europe until later that year, in around late October, November, so I think it does count. Also, it's our list, so it's up to us to just whatever, right? Come
Yeah.
on, let's have some fun here. So, first day sales of PS2 reached $250 million, surpassing the Sega Dreamcast's first day, by the way. PS2 retailed for $299 on release, and when they were released in Japan, Sony managed to sell the entire inventory, the whole 1.4 million units of them, by the end of the same month, March 2000. I think two key ingredients for their massive success we can all agree on is the fact that, well, the PS2 was backwards compatible with the PS1, but also, of course, you could persuade your parents to, say like, well, instead of buying a DVD player, why don't we just get a PlayStation 2 because it can do DVDs and play the games at the same time?
Wait, that was exactly what you did, right?
I mean, yeah, I can come clean now 20 years later. I think it's gonna be fine, right? But yeah, this is exactly what I did. And it
Okay.
worked. And it was actually quite a cheap DVD player as well for the time, I might say. So it wasn't actually like a completely, manipulative kind of suggestion on my behalf. This was like a legit smart deal
Yeah, it's a win-win for everyone.
for everybody.
Yay. So yeah, I guess that backwards compatibility will allow, like, for example, older sibling to upgrade from PlayStation to PlayStation 2 and the younger sibling playing the PlayStation 1 instead, right? That greasy old console.
Yeah, because the younger siblings always get the scraps, right, from
I
the older
know.
kid.
That's really sad, isn't it?
Boo.
Boo, yeah. And also, that part about DVD though, it definitely pushed the penetration of home console under TVs and, families' homes, basically, because they can now watch movies. And according to Chris Deering, head of the Sony Computer Entertainment Europe at the time, that was actually the case for a country like Spain, for example, where the penetration of home console actually doubled afterwards.
So, what games could you actually get by Christmas 2000 together with the PS2? Well, you had Tekken Tag Tournament, SSX, one of my personal favorites, and Ridge Racer 5, of course. Yeah, and speaking of SSX, one of my favorites, they initially announced in 99 that they worked on it with Dreamcast in mind, but then they decided not to and moved over to the PS2 and released it in 2000 instead.
Speaking of cool PlayStation 2 games, around 2 years after the PS2 was released, James Bond 007 Nightfire was out to the world in November 2002, and it was published by EA. I get it, it's likely not everyone's favorite Bond games like GoldenEye from 5 years prior, but you know what? Hear me out here. The game actually tied in with the release of Bond's movie Die Another Day, which adds to the popularity of the game. Unlike GoldenEye, which didn't really model the character based on any particular Bond actors, Nightfire actually modeled Pierce Brosnan's face to be the character in the game. It also has everything you'd wish a Bond game would have: the action, the self driving Aston Martin, the cool gadgets, your chosen Bond move, the first person shooter, and of course, the Bond girls, yes. And last but not least, Philip Electric Shaver.
What?
Yeah, apparently they had a promotion thing going on with the movie Die Another Day. Philip as the sponsor, so they included it in the game as well. No, you're not attacking people by shaving their beard or anything like that. But um, the electric shaver is secretly like a flashbang.
How did that make it through health and safety during manufacturing? Crikey.
I have no idea, but there you go. You have that within the game as
Ah,
well.
that is such a painful product placement as well.
I know,
What?
yeah,
Ah,
a bit too obvious. But yeah, honestly though, more people should really talk about this game. It's 2002, and you can have different style of play, basically. You can sneak around, you can shoot your way through the mission. If you like being stealthy, you can make use of the special glasses where you can swap between night vision or heat signature to, just improve your stealth in general. Anyway, it just sounds really awesome.
I mean, I played this game myself back when it came out, and I do have fond memories of it. But you know what? At the time, I didn't consider it to be like amazing, amazing, amazing. But thinking back on it, I'm like, it was a really good game, actually. I guess it's overshadowed by GoldenEye a little bit.
It might be, but that's funny, right? Because GoldenEye came out 5 years prior and obviously didn't have the same technology that Nightfire had, which is a lot better, to be honest. But yeah, nostalgia speaking, I think GoldenEye is kind of what stick to people's mind a bit more somehow. But yeah, anyway, the home console version of this game was definitely the popular one, whilst the Game Boy Advance and PC version received more of a mixed review. It's not as good as the console version. Overall, this game did so well though, selling 5 million copies in 10 months, with the Xbox version achieving platinum hit status for at least selling 2 million copies. The PlayStation 2 version also received Platinum Sales Award by ELSPA, so that's Entertainment and Leisure Software Publishers Association. Quite a mouthful, but yeah, ELSPA, indicating sales of at least 300,000 copies in the UK.
If you were already around in 1996 and you love video games, most likely you would have begged to get an N64 for Christmas. N64 was first released on the 23rd of June 1996 in Japan, so not really a holiday festive release per se, but just bear with me here, you'll understand why it is making this list. In Japan, 300,000 units that were scheduled for first day release were literally all released to the hands of the public on the very same day, completely sold out. They released 200,000 more units on the 26th and 30th of June, so just a week after the first day of release, and they were all sold out instantly as well. In North America, people already heard about the great N64 before they could buy it over there, and not everyone was patient enough to wait until later in September 1996. Some import stores sold it for as much as $699 for the system at the time, plus shipping, making full use of people's desperation to get the console early. Man, that is really sad, isn't it?
I know, that is quite sad.
Yeah. Mind you, this wasn't like the PS5 Pro, so for context, when N64 was later released in the US, Nintendo wanted to price them for less than $250, and they did. Finally, the retail price in the US was just $199.99. So yeah, those grey market import stores definitely raked a huge profit from desperate gamers and parents and grandparents in North America, which is very sad. That does not make for a happy holiday season, does it?
Yeah, definitely not. Although, that's actually before the holiday season. Remember that the N64 released in America in September within the same year, while the one in Japan just released 3 months before of that in June. So actually, people could have just waited for 3 months and they got it for a lot cheaper in
They
America.
could have just waited 3 months. Come on, guys. But I mean, they wanted that 3D, didn't they?
Yes, that's true. And also, I think it will make complete sense how people spend so much money on this console when you talk about the next part. Go on, JP.
Yeah, so the N64 is definitely a big talking point during the Christmas period of 1996, but funnily enough, not as big as Tickle Me Elmo, apparently. It wasn't that easy to actually get an N64, though, during the first year of release. So if you imagine to find one during Christmas 96, you'll probably pay a fortune for it as well. So remember the N64 retailed for $199.99, right? By December 23rd, it was offered for as high as $600.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Still not as crazy as Tickle Me Elmo, though. So that was supposed to retail for $30, and by December the 23rd, if you could find one, it would cost you as much as $700.
Oh my god, that's a lot.
Yeah, sadly, we're not here to talk about Tickle Me Elmo, though. In the US, N64 was actually released together with just two games, Pilot Wing 64 and, of course, Super Mario 64. Not only the console was a big hit, Super Mario 64 was certainly a big hit too. It was meant to be the killer app for the console. Within 3 months of its release in the US, 2 million copies were sold. It became the best selling video game of 1996 and the best selling video game overall from 1995 all the way to 2002.
But yeah, we definitely can't talk about iconic holiday drop and N64 without mentioning the legendary Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, JP's favorite game.
My favorite game and also the best game ever made, mind you, objectively speaking.
Okay, well, anyway, let's rewind to December 1995 to Nintendo's Shoshinkai trade show. So, Nintendo planned to release Super Mario 64 as the launch game for N64 which happened anyway, right? So you got the console, that's the one of the first games that you can get. But they were also planning to release Ocarina of Time a year later in 1997 together with 64DD. That's a disk drive peripheral that was still in development when they were releasing N64. But due to performance issues, they decided to move it from disk to cartridge instead, so going back to its original form. This is why they missed the planned holiday 1997 release and pushed it back to 1998 instead. This game is definitely awesome, and we're not going to talk too much about the gameplay itself here, but I thought I'll bring up some random trivia about the development of the game itself.
Oh, please do, please do, please do.
Oh my god, you are so excited about this one,
I know.
aren't you? But yeah, Shigeru Miyamoto was involved in the development of both Ocarina of Time and also Super Mario 64. But since Super Mario 64 released first, there were quite a few ideas that came during the development of this beloved Zelda game that was finally used for Super Mario 64 instead. Obviously, both games were massively popular anyway, so it's like a good thing either way and not changing anything, in my honest opinion. But I thought that was interesting.
Ah, no way. What is there any examples of this?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what it is, like the detail of it, because they never mention it anywhere, unfortunately. But it would be interesting to know, like, what it is. But either way, it's like what I said. Does it even matter? Both of the games were really good.
Yeah, this is true. Maybe one day we can just interview Mr. Miyamoto himself.
And find out, yeah?
Yeah, we'll invite him over to our little podcast room and just have him explain to us everything.
FYI, our podcast room means like our guest bedroom, by the way. So it's.
Yeah, we better make sure we tell him that before he gets here. Just, you know.
It sounds really creepy. But
Yeah.
anyway, Miyamoto initially wanted to make the Zelda game from first person perspective so people can absorb the environment of Hyrule better, plus, of course, allowing the team to focus more on the environment and the enemies and the what have yous. But this quickly changed when the idea of a child Link was being introduced to the game, to which Miyamoto believed that we really need to see Link as the character on screen because it wouldn't make sense otherwise, which I agree with him.
In general, I am glad that Ocarina of Time was a third-person game in the end and not a first-person one.
100%. Miyamoto also went to Lower Franconia in northern Bavaria to do research of the half-timbered architecture there, to become the inspiration of the Hyrule Castles market, apparently.
Ah, that's so cute. I can totally see it too now that he says that.
I feel like he just wanted a holiday and he went there.
This was a good excuse to,
Yeah, this is a good
like, listen, Nintendo, I'm gonna go over here. Listen, it's purely research.
Pay for my trip, thank you. But how does this game even make it to iconic holiday drop list? It was delayed from holiday release of 97. It didn't even go ahead with the intended media it was supposed to be released in with the disk drive thing. But to be honest with you, the question you should be asking is actually, how could we not include this though?
It's only the best game ever made, Gabby.
I know, right? Yeah. So Ocarina of Time was released in 21st of November 1998. In US, they opened pre-order for the game, which reached 500,000 pre-orders. Apparently, it tripled the number of pre-orders of any previous game that it was awarded Guinness World Record for most advanced orders for a game.
Nice.
Yeah, it was highly sought after. More than 1 million copies were sold in less than a week, selling in total 2.5 million copies in 1998. Keep in mind, this game was released 39 days before that year ended, which means they sold 2.5 million copies within 39 days.
That is so many copies. That is a ridiculous amount of games to sell in such a short amount of time.
I know. It's so impressive thinking of it from 1998, though, right?
You know what? It makes me happy because at least many other people will know for a fact that this is, objectively speaking, the best game ever made.
Yep. probably true. During that 39 days, it earned $150 million in US revenues, and that is a lot. No Hollywood movies even made it that much during the same time period.
Take that, Hollywood.
It was so critically acclaimed that many reviews on magazines and gaming news called it flawless, new industry standards, and many, many more. What do you think about it, JP?
I completely agree with everything they just said. Like, it did set a completely new standard for the video game industry worldwide, actually. Like, it is the best game ever made. It had absolutely everything you could ever want from a game.
So it's no longer cyberpunk then? Oh.
No, that's just unfair because that game came out like a long time afterwards, like 25 years later. But no, honestly, Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, it had everything. It had
Sure.
gameplay, it had story, it had fun, regardless of what age you were or, skill in playing a video game. It had absolutely everything.
Yeah, it's really charming game, I must admit.
Yes. But some might consider it to be a little bit childish compared to another iconic holiday drop that we'll be talking about next.
Ooh, okay.
So you might not be able to relate because certainly me and Gabby couldn't. But like, if you were lucky enough to have the internet and a computer in 1993, then this Christmas would have certainly been a very iconic time for you, Player One. If you do, and you're already an avid gamer, the likelihood is that you have been so looking forward to get your hands on the release of Doom when December came around in 1993 that year. Or you might have been calling id Software continuously since mid 93 because they missed their planned release date because it was supposed to be in quarter 3 of 93 actually. Yes, the next one on our list is Doom, the super iconic first person shooter game released and published by id Software in 1993. And with Wolfenstein 3D already having gained popularity the year before, the team actually felt like they needed to develop another game that made use of John Carmack's newly developed engine. So in November 92, the team started working on a project they initially called Green and Pissed. This also ties in with them moving office to Suite 666, where the office is filled with noises from neighboring dental offices, which became their source of inspiration when working on Doom as well. Since now id Software will self-publish their game since breaking up with Apogee, they made the decision to make use of the shareware market as much as possible. At the end of the day, if enough people liked the game, people would play the first episode they released and make the purchase of the rest of the game to id Software. The team planned to release Doom for DOS-based computers in the third quarter of 93, but ultimately they needed more time. By December 1993, the team was working non-stop to release the game, and I mean sleeping in the office kind of non-stop. Finally, after working 30 hours straight and testing it rigorously, they were finally ready to release the game at midnight on the 10th of December 1993. They were planning to upload it via this FTP server at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, but they couldn't. Too many people were already connected because they were anticipating the release. Until the network administrator had to increase the number of connections and kick off all users. Just for the birth of Doom. The game took 30 minutes to upload, and right after it was uploaded, 10,000 people tried to download it at the same time, so once again, the network crashed. Not surprised, the university actually began banning Doom within hours because the chaos on the network it caused, especially because of the multiplayer aspect of it. Just brilliant.
Okay, so this is officially the last one on our list. So far, all of our releases deserve praise and respect for giving us the perfect holiday. But this one is kind of iconic for the wrong reason, I guess.
Yeah, for all the bad reasons.
Yeah, probably. So, the next one on our list is E.T. Yes, the extraterrestrial was released for the Atari 2600 in December 1982. And although it wasn't responsible for the Atari video game crash, it is the perfect example for why the video game market did crash in North America. So, encouraged by their highly sold but poorly critiqued port of Pac Man, Atari gave Howard Scott Warshaw just over 5 weeks to develop a video game based on the huge success of the E.T. movie and in time for a holiday season. Kind of forcing it with time here, I feel like. But Steven Spielberg, director of the movie, specifically asked for Howard to make the game. I guess it might be because Howard also made Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark, also like Spielberg movie adaptation.
Yeah, but we're not sure. But I mean, yeah, in all likelihood, they already worked
Probably,
together
right?
once before, so
Yeah.
Spielberg would like him to again be the one developing the game.
When it was released, the game initially sold well, which, you know what, of course it did. Gamers' parents, grandparents worldwide had no way of knowing whether this game was going to be good or not. They just knew E.T. It was a huge thing, and there was going to be a game out for it by Christmas. Of course they would want to get it, right?
Yes, one way or another, they were going to get E.T. the game for the grandkids, of course.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, 2.6 million copies of the game were sold by close of 1982. But the next stat is what's going to be important because at least 669,000 copies were returned soon after. That's a bit sad, isn't it?
Yeah, if you think about the ratio of games being returned, like, oi,
Yeah,
oi,
that's a
oi, oi,
lot.
oi. Yeah, I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
Cyberpunk 2077 didn't even see that many returns.
Oh my god, yeah, when
When
it
it,
was so glitchy.
yeah, right. That's an incredible amount. Just
Yeah, I think
honest,
so too.
yeah. Everyone knew this was like a really, really bad game, but like just even seeing the figures about it just makes you really realize, yeah, like these are people who bothered to walk back and like demand their money back.
Yeah, we didn't experience this obviously because this is about like 9, 10 years before we were even born, but
Yeah.
I could imagine the
Mm.
take on it was not even great at
Yes.
all
I
afterwards.
was minus 9 years old at this time.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
People really did not like this game, and Atari was left with millions of return cartridges. Initially, it was thought to only be a rumor, but Atari apparently ditched many unsold cartridges of ET and other unsold games and consoles in a landfill in New Mexico. Obviously, they denied this back then, by the way, but yeah, when it was reported at the time, it wasn't truly believed. However, an excavation that took place in 2014 confirmed that Atari really did dump their unloved products in a landfill.
Let this be a lesson to all of us, player one. Do not rush a good thing.
Definitely. Are you talking to developer of GTA 6 by any chance for
Yes.
this?
Guys, if you need an extra couple of years just to make sure that the main protagonist can actually swim, by all means, you know, give it that extra little
Sure.
bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Develop the game to have some swimming and not instant drowning going on. That'd
Oh
be
my
nice.
god.
I went there. But of course, we have a few honorable mentions as well. First, the Nintendo Wii, released in North America in November 2006 and around most of the rest of the world in December of 2006. With over 100 million units sold since, it definitely deserves an iconic holiday drop shout out at the very least. Did you know the patent holder for the motion control technology used for the Nintendo Wii, Tom Quinn, actually approached Microsoft and Sony first to pitch his idea to? But both companies felt that the technology and also the appetite for motion games wasn't quite there just yet. Which is ironic, since both Microsoft and Sony would end up playing catch up with Nintendo by later also providing motion controls for their own consoles, after seeing just how successful Nintendo's Wii was being. And also, second honorable mention, this one happened exactly 1 year before the first honorable mention. Microsoft releases the Xbox 360 in November 2005 in America and December 2005 in Europe and Japan. With more than 84 million units sold, it is the most successful video game console that was not made in Japan. The red ring of death that plagued the console cost Microsoft $1.15 billion, and it wasn't the most successful of the 7th generation of video game consoles either. Nevertheless, it kickstarted a generation and popularized playing consoles online, achievements, and using the console for more than to just play games, so like streaming music and movies too, for example. So, Player One, we wish you, your family, and your friends happy holidays. Stay warm, well fed, cozy, and play some video games.
Yeah, and what about you, Player One? Do you have any special gaming related holiday moments you want to share with us? Drop us a message on our website, GamingHistory.Club. New episodes of Gaming History Club are released every other Wednesday, so make sure you subscribe and follow us on our social media. We're on Instagram and Facebook as Gaming History Club.
Come back in a couple of weeks, Player One, for our last episode of 2024 when we revisit everything that happened this year. See ya!